Welcome to Career Point. Today we are going to discussing about K-means clustering example. So, so it is one of the unsupervised learning algorithm. So here some example is given. Let us go through the example. So these are the data points are given A1 to A8. So we have by using this K-means clustering, we have to make them into different clusters. So as they mentioned, we need to uh, convert them into three clusters, and final centroid values we have to calculate. So initial centroids are given A1, A4, A7. So to solve this example, we need first of all the number of data points are given and initial centroids are required, and we have to calculate the Euclidean distance from the data point to the centroid, right? So in this table we can see these are the data points are given. So from this data point to this centroid, so we have to calculate the distance. Based on the distance we can decide this data point falls into which cluster. Okay, so now let us calculate the Euclidean distance between these two data points. So we already know the formula, root of x2 minus x1 whole square plus y2 minus y1 whole square. So this will become 0, and if you calculate the Euclidean distance from A2 to centroid 210, so then it will be around 5, and A3 to centroid 210 8.49 3.61 7.07 7.21 8.06 2.24. So like that, these are the distances from all these data points to the centroid 1. And similarly, you need to calculate the distance between all these data points to the centroid 2. These are the values we'll get. And similarly, we need to calculate the distance between all these data points to the centroid 3. So after calculating these distances, so we have to uh, 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 group them into clusters based on the distance and the data point. So this data point is close or near to which centroid, then this data point will fall into that cluster. So for example, if you see that A1 is closer to, so lesser value from these three centroids we can consider. So this is the 0, it is fall into cluster 1. A2, it is nearest to a centroid 3, so that's why third cluster. A3 is nearest to centroid 2, that's why it is cluster 2. A4 is nearest to cluster 2, so that's why it is 2. So likewise, cluster 2, cluster 2, cluster 3 and cluster 2. So after calculating this, uh, we can observe that many number of data points out of all these are falling into one single cluster. That's why, so we have to change or recalculate the centroids. So for recalculating the centroids, so the first one is cluster 210, 2 comma 10, it remains same centroid 1. And to calculate the second centroid, we need to take the average of the all 5 data points uh, under the second cluster. So that will become 6 comma 6. So 8 plus 5 plus 7 plus 6 plus 4 by 5. So that is 6, 30 by 6, 30 by 5, 6, and here also 30 by 5, 6, 6 comma 6. So for third cluster, third centroid, we need to take the third cluster data points A2 and A7. So it becomes 1.5 and 3.5. So now again we have to take the table. So here we have to replace the new centroids with the old centroids, and the data points will be same. And now similarly use the Euclidean distance formula and calculate the distance between 8 data points to the new data center, new centroid. So these are the values you will get. And similarly, we need to calculate the distance between 8 data points to the second centroid. And similarly, we need to calculate the distance between 8 data points to the new third centroid. So after calculating these distances, the same process will be continued. So now we have to uh, decide that data points are falling into which cluster. So A1 falls in cluster 1, A2 falls in cluster 3. As we have done in the first round, we can observe that. So the lesser value we have to take. Nothing but A2 is nearest to third cluster. So that's why it is cluster 3. Similarly, cluster 2, 2, 2 and 3, 1. So in this round, we can observe that uh, data point A8 is moving from a cluster, new cluster in this iteration. So that's why again we have to calculate the new centroids. So for the new centroids, A1 will be uh, first cluster, it is consisting of 2 data points. We need to calculate the average of the 2 data points. And similarly for the second centroid, so it is consisting of 4 data points. We have to take the average of 4. For third centroid, it is third cluster is consisting of 3 data points, 2 data points. We need to take the average. So this formula and this algorithm continues until no data point is moving from one cluster to the another cluster, right? So then we can finalize the final centroids and the clusters. So in this case, the new centroids are replaced with old centroids, and again we have to use the formula, and we need to calculate the distances between all 8 data points to the centroid 1, 8 data points to the centroid 2, 8 data points to the centroid 3. After calculating this, we need to compare with we have to declare the clusters, and we need to compare that clusters with the old cluster values. And if anything is again moving, so again we have to calculate the centroids. So you can observe that so in the previous old cluster, the data point A3 is moving from to the first cluster. So that's why again we have to recalculate the new centroid. So in this situation, so the new centroid is combination. The first centroid is combination of 3 data points A1, A4, A8. So that is the new centroid, and this is the second centroid, and this is the third centroid. So after calculating the new centroids, again we have to use the formula to calculate the distance between all 8 data points to the new centroid. So likewise we have to calculate all. Again we have to compare with the old clusters to the new cluster values, and in this case we can observe that no data point is moving from one cluster to another cluster. So here we can understand that the clustering is done properly with the help of k-means algorithm, right? So here 3 clusters, k is equal to 3. So that's why the final centroids are 3.679, 7 comma 4.33, 1.5 comma 3.5, and final clusters are C1. Cluster 1 is having A1, A4, A8. Cluster 2 is A3, A5 and A6. Cluster 3 A2, A7. So this is all about k-means clustering algorithm example. Thank you all.